Okay, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're going to continue our road trip to Renewal. Now, you were all here on April 29th, so that's wonderful. But so what I want to do today is I'm going to give a brief summary for those who may not have been here on April 29th, and then we'll get on the road to Renewal. We are focusing on renewal because we emerged from the heaviness of the pandemic. We had lots of challenges. Most of us looked at our lives and realized we need to give them a little tweak, a little tune-up after 2 years and 3 months without a lot of activity. So my hope is that you will get on the road to renewal and that you will embrace life more fully. In fact, I want to start with a quote that is in the PR, but I think it's relevant to repeat it. I'm guessing you wouldn't remember just from the PR. It goes like this. Our goal is to live life in radical amazement. Isn't that quite a challenge? Radical amazement to get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. And those are the words of Abraham Heschel. Or to put it more simply, I bought this at the dollar store when I was buying my Hallmark cards. And for those who aren't here, I'm going to read it to you. You did not wake up to be mediocre. Isn't that stirring? So Rhonda, would you please pass that? So I'm going to give you an overview of our time, which will be, we're going to get on the road after I give a little summary, and we're going to stop at 4 oases of nourishment and growth. And then we're going to move to the destination of the renewal, which is a place called the Reflecting Pool. And we're going to spend more time there. So let me see what else I wanted to tell you. I want you to think of the 4 oases as topics which, if you practice these 4 things and they become habitual, you are strengthening yourself and nourishing yourself for the final destination. Now, I realize that sounds a little vague, but it'll get fleshed out. And as always, you know, I welcome questions and comments, right? Okay, so let me give a little summary of last time, mostly in terms of what I've described as a self-care kit. The self-care kit I want you to take on the road. You know how when you go on the road, you often take a first aid kit in case something happens? Well, this is self-care kit. It involves emotional self-care, and that for emotional self-care, I have to oversimplify these 2 self-care. They could each be a talk, but I'm giving you the essence of it. So the emotional self-care happens when you feel the feeling, you name it, claim it, and tame it. Do any of you remember that? So you know what you're feeling. Feelings are your friends. They have messages for you. You know, you claim it by saying, I feel angry, 1 minute run, and then you tame it by expressing it. If you don't do that, it stays in your body and it hurts you. Rhonda, question? I want to repeat. Oh, okay. So as I said, it could be a whole talk entitled Emotional Well-Being, which I could do in the fall maybe. The second aspect, is there a problem, Mark?
Or stand back a little bit. Yeah,
Okay, we will fine tune this. Mark is very patient. He's dealing with all these variables. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so the second aspect of your self-care kit is you must banish negative self-talk, the #1 killer of personal growth. Negatives, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 or more. Everything begins with a thought. They have power. So if you use your thoughts to worry, to gossip, to put people down, to complain, you're not going to get renewal. You're going to get stuck. So we're getting ready to get on the road now. So
negative self-talk is the number one what?
Killer of personal growth. Lynn just asked, and I'll repeat it for those of you at home. What is NST, negative self-talk? The number one killer of personal growth. And it's one of the few things we can control because our thoughts are ours. We can choose. If we stay awake and alert, we can choose not to practice NST, but positive self-talk, which lifts us up. Okay? So now we're going to get on the road. I want you to have I want you to have your self-care kit. Well, for me, I would always need water if I'm going on the road. But I also want you to pack a rain jacket with a hood. This is, of course, all metaphorical. And I want you to use your imagination. If you don't have a rain jacket with a hood, bring an umbrella, so to speak. Okay, you with me? Okay, are there any questions before? Oh, wait, let me emphasize one thing that I did not. One of the ways I'm renewing my journey is I'm doing this talk with metaphors. In other words, pictures plus words. I've never done that before. So, but it feels creative and I want to try it because you get the picture plus the words. So I am encouraging you right now to plug in your imagination. It's one of our 7 inner powers, imagination. Think about it. We can make pictures. That's pretty awesome. We can make pictures. But many people make pictures, guess what? The sad and the memories that are sad and use their imagination to pull themselves down. We don't want that, right? Come on in.
Sorry, I'm late.
It's okay. What's your name?
Nancy Whitaker.
You were here last time.
Yes.
Nancy, okay. So Nancy, what you really missed was a review of April 29th. So we're just getting on the road now. Okay, any questions before we get on the road? I'm happy you're going to join me on the road. We have a cool van, by the way, that we're using. Okay.
Good.
Mhm. It's my favorite color, purple. It's going to be real comfy for each of you. Okay, so let me see. Remember, plug in your imagination. How do you plug in your powers? A, be aware of them. C, choose to use it. 3, action. Do it. Make sure you're doing it. So I call that the ACA battery pack for your powers. Aware, choose to use, choice, and then do it. Okay, so keep that imagination active as we get into the van. Ready? Have your seatbelts on? Okay. And always remember, interrupt me anytime because I love dialogue with people and I'm so glad to be back with people.
Real people.
Yes, yes. Okay, so our first stop, we actually stopped briefly at on April 29th, the Gratitude Gardens. This is where we're going to get out of the van. And the Gratitude Gardens are just full of blossoms. And we're walking around the Gratitude Gardens and we're remembering how powerful gratitude is. It's one of the few practices that are easy. It's easy to express gratitude. And it really helps with negative self-talk because if you're plagued by worry, you can say, stop. I'm going to shift the focus to gratitude. Thank you that we're together in a lovely room. There's always lots to thank for. But in order to make the practice of gratitude yours, it's a good idea to ritualize it. So 3 times in the morning before you get out of bed, these are suggestions. 3 times before when you go to bed. When you do that, then you start looking for things to be grateful for all day. You start looking for the good. And guess what? You're more cheerful because you're focused on things that are good. And Yeah, okay, I think I covered what I wanted to share about gratitude. It pushes out and negative self-talk, makes you more aware of goodness. And remember, we become what we habitually do. That's Aristotle. If you habitually practice gratitude, one of the easiest, you're going to just become a more positive, grateful person. So I hope you all do that. Does anybody have a question before we move on? We'll get back in the van and go to our next oasis. Or does anybody want to express gratitude? Anybody at home want to express some gratitude? Let's take 3. Rhonda?
I'm just really thankful you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, well, Lynn and Rhonda said they're thankful I'm here. Thank you. I feel touched by
We
that.
love it when you're here.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. Anyone else want to express gratitude? Nancy?
Yes, for my friends, my real good friends.
Friends. Nancy's expressing gratitude for friends.
Yeah.
And that fits right into our next stop. Friendship Forest.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nance. Okay, so we're going to go back in the van, drive a little bit, and stop at Friendship Forest. Now, I want to tell you that a friend of mine, I was going to call it Friendship Field, and a friend of mine said, Eileen, call it a forest. Think about all those beautiful trees that shelter each other and the people that walk among them. So I want to share with you the power of friendship. We know it's appealing, but do we also know it's powerful? It has been, Harvard studied it, that people who have 1 or 2 friends, the way I'm going to describe them, are healthier, they live longer, and they're more joyful. So there's, in Proverbs, it says friends are good medicine. That says a lot. But here's what else they are. We know this, but I want to underline how nurturing it is to have friends that you can trust. I realized, I call this the 5 C's of good friendship. You confide the C's, like a C, right? You get it? You confide the secrets of your heart to a friend. That's big. We need to share our secrets. You call on a friend for help, another C. You celebrate with a friend. When you get good news, what do? Often, hey, guess what happened? Another C, you cry with a friend. We need to be able to cry to cleanse the wounds of our hurt. And we need a respectful listener when we cry. And the 5th C is compassion. So the good friend is going to listen and understand compassion. So remember, you're in the forest now, and you're thinking about these things, about friendship and the role of it in your own life. One writer calls it the ultimate task of self-care. I thought that was really interesting. If you have good friends, you're really taking care of yourself. You're really, as she put it, that thread of connectedness involves affection and intimacy. It moves you toward trust in caring for yourself and others. So if you don't have a friend like this yet, I hope you will go in search of 1 or 2. And a good way is to join some kind of a group or a volunteer where you see somebody maybe every week, like a book club, a class, so that you can check out, hey, maybe that person's a potential friend. So there could be people without friends right now, and I want you to have one, and I hope you'll make it a priority because it's priceless.
Friendships have to be nurtured.
It takes time. Lynn just said friendships have to be nurtured. I agree. And how are they nurtured? Time and attention. Time and attention. Right. Let me check my notes to see if I want to say more about that. Well, I wanted to say this. It's good to have friends in your family, of course. However, a lot of families have tension and dysfunction. And even though we love them, they're not always a place where we can do the 5 C's. So I encourage you to have a friend or two outside of the family. If you can have them inside too, great. But if your family gets a lot of upheaval, you want to have someone out there that's going to support you and give you caring. Any questions?
They say your family's almost a place where you can go. That's not always true.
I don't agree, Lynn. Lynn said she's heard
Yeah.
that how did you say that? The family's the only,
There's a place that you can always go.
oh, well, you could, but guess what? A lot of families are dangerous.
They're very toxic, yeah.
Yeah, toxic is a good word.
Yeah.
Yes, abuse reigns. And, I once had a client who said, when I go home, I'm always ready to duck. Now, that's funny, but it's sad, right? So we need friends outside the family too. Now, any questions before we move on? Have you enjoyed Friendship Forest and the lovely
I never had a
trees?
great relationship with my mother, and interestingly enough, every time I went to see her, I developed this cough.
Oh, the body.
It was a 5-hour drive down to see her. The closer I got, the more I started coughing.
Wow. Well, I'll tell the virtuals what Lynn said. Lynn was saying whenever she went to see her mother, she developed a cough. And the closer she got, the more she coughed. And that's very telling because the body doesn't lie. So when you have a symptom like that, there's a meaningful to it.
That's right. My husband picked up on it, and he kept saying, well, it's the way she speaks to you. Don't you see it coming when she says ugly things? I said, no, I don't see it coming. He said, well, next time we're going to say much. When I see it coming, I'm going to stand up and say, we need to go back to the hotel for a while. And we did that, and I learned to see what was happening.
Wow. Let me repeat that to the people. Mark, can you hear the comments or should I repeat them? Mimi, should I repeat the comments? Yes, okay. Lynn just shared with us that going to see her mother was challenging, we know from the cough. And her husband said, do you hear how she talks to you? And Lynn was so used to it, I'm going to add, that she didn't see it. So they stayed at a hotel. And then when the mother would begin to be somewhat abusive verbally, her husband would say, well, let's go to the hotel. And then gradually Lynn began to see or to recognize that this wasn't okay. This isn't okay. So thank you for sharing that. Any other comments before we get back in the van? Friendship Forest, you ready to leave? Oh, Nancy?
You find that,
Okay, sure. Nancy is going to get back to us. Right. Okay. So we'll leave the forest. The lovely willow trees hanging down. Okay, so now our next stop is, remember, these 4 oases are habits that I'm hoping you'll adopt because they're going to add to your renewal. So the third oasis is the kindness courtyard. That's courtyard with a K, of course, right? So in the kindness, there's a price of admission into the kindness courtyard. And that is you have to smile to get in. Are you willing to smile? Let me see your smiles. Yeah, why don't you come to the first row, Brent? Come right here. I don't want you to miss anything. Okay, good. There you are. Okay, so to get into the kindness courtyard, you have to smile. Or can I see all your smiles? Okay, smiles. Are you smiling at home? I see someone. Okay. Hi, Chris. I just saw your name. So the smile is an act of kindness. And it's so easy. And it's so powerful. I want to tell you two true stories of a smile's power. The first involves a nun who wanted to leave this convent, and she was depressed about it. She felt bad. So she decided to kill herself.
Oh,
Yeah, this happens. I'm sure there were underlying issues.
I thought you were going to say she decided to stay.
Well, wait till you hear what happened. So it's even better. So she is walking the grounds, deciding, how will I kill myself? And a jogger walks past her. And he stops and turns and looks at her, and he smiles. And he said, have a nice day. She changed her mind about killing herself. She left the convent. That's what she needed to do, but she didn't kill herself. Now, imagine that. Now, I thought, gee, maybe that was an angel. Even you hear of that, an angel appears at a certain time.
He must have been really cute.
I agree. Brent said he must have been really cute. Okay, so here's the second story about a smile that involves me. So I was going to church. I used to go to St. Martin's in Monroeville, Episcopal. And there was a woman there. I'll call her Lucy because her name starts with an L. And after Mass, she said, Eileen, what's the matter? I said, what do you mean, Lucy? She said, when you came in today, you didn't smile at me. Now, do you hear that? Who would have thought that a smile could make a difference? So in the kindness courtyard where we are now, roaming around, everybody's smiling. They're being kind. I had a hard time figuring out what should be in the kindness courtyard. So I decided it was people preparing acts of kindness. Like there's a table where they're writing get well cards to people, the mail ministry, I call it. There's another table with people on the phone listening to lonely people. One of the big acts of kindness we can do is listen to other people, because there are many lonely people. Nancy.
One act of kindness at the hospital where I volunteer, of course. We had beautiful cards with flowers pasted on the front, and their get well cards to the patients. And when I handed to them, some here, and it's just a little pretty sunshine card. And then there's a little letter inside from someone who's a relative or a friend.
They
card.
That's beautiful. I'll repeat that for the at-home people.
Yes.
Nancy just shared that she volunteers at a hospital and Forbes, and at the hospital, they have beautiful handmade cards,
They're handmade.
handmade with lots of pretty flowers. And when she hands it to a patient, she gets an incredible look of gratitude, right?
Yes.
And a lot of smiles too. So the smallest act can make such a difference. So let us resolve to practice kindness, whatever that means. Or does anyone else want to give an example of?
I do, Eileen.
Yes, Mimi.
Yes, I wanted to say that, you don't always have to be physically present to smile either. I was customer service manager for a number of years, and we used to have these little mirrors for our customer service reps, a tough, really tough job. But there were a mirror, and on the mirror it said, put a smile in your voice.
Oh.
And that really does make a huge difference, when you're talking to
the
people.
Voice, if it's warm. Did you all hear what Mimi, did you hear Mimi? Okay, I'm going to repeat what you said, Mimi.
Sure.
Mimi said, you don't always have to be present to the person to do an act of kindness. Where she was working in customer service, they had stickers on each station that said, put a smile in your voice. And that is good because the tone of the voice can convey warmth or indifference. Thank you, Mimi. Thank
Sure.
you. Anyone else? Well, I want to tell you about an act of kindness I received, a really extraordinary act of kindness. My partner, my life partner, died unexpectedly in February of 17. And someone in my life began to bring food to my house often, really, because she was right. I wasn't into cooking. I was depressed. I'm laying on the couch grieving for Phil, especially the first year or two. And then she would say, I'm coming with food. And it was just so warm. And she makes this great soup, and I would have the soup for breakfast. So our acts of kindness lift people up. And guess what? They lift us up too. Because when we're kind, it puts us in touch with our own goodness, right? One of the quotes about kindness that my buddy Arnold Zigarella used to say, the hand that extends the bouquet of flowers retains the fragrance of the flowers on your fingers. So that's a good way to say, hey, when you give, you're getting, right? And it's so important to be kind to ourselves. We sometimes forget, and we're going to talk about that at our destination. But consider starting to be kind to yourself, be gentle. And 2 quotes, and we'll get ready to leave the courtyard. I've quoted this in other talks. Philo of ancient Greece said, be kind to everyone you meet, because everyone you meet is fighting a battle. And isn't that true? Most of us have big stressors. They vary, but sometimes you can't tell from the outside. The outside and the inside don't match a lot, So remember, kindness will benefit everyone. Okay, you ready to leave the courtyard? Anybody with a comment or question about kindness? Okay. I trust that now that you're on the road trip to renewal, that you might even practice kindness more because it renews your spirit. Okay, so now we're stopping at our 4th oasis of nurture and grace. And this is where you have to put on your rain jacket because it's a waterfall. Do you like waterfalls? They're beautiful, but this waterfall is called Forgiveness Falls. And you're invited to stand under the fall as it comes down. And it will, if you intend it, it will wash away grudges, resentments, bitterness that you've been holding on to, perhaps. Now, a simple definition of forgiveness that we'll use for today, but if anybody wants the full talk, because it can get complicated, I'll be glad to do it here in September. But the simple definition of forgiveness is a willingness to let go of grudges and resentment. Say, okay, I'm giving it up. I'm giving it up. Because forgiveness is a big deal. I'll tell you a few reasons why. You have no chance of inner peace if you're unforgiving, if you're holding on. When you forgive, it relaxes tense bodies. It frees you from stuck places from your past. Unforgiveness means unfreedom. It's that simple because it ties you. If you don't forgive, it ties you to the person who hurt you. And it's very important under the falls to forgive yourself. And I know from working with clients for 30 years and sitting across from courageous people who shared their lives and struggles and pain, I know that forgiveness can be a hard journey. But I also know that some misconceptions have kept us from forgiving. And I want to share those misconceptions with you. Did you ever hear the terrible fiction, forgive and forget? If you ever hear that, say, no, that isn't accurate. You cannot forget if you've been raped, but you can forgive. So time does not heal all wounds. It takes our effort and our work on healing. Another misconception is some people think if I forgive him, I have to reconnect. No. And you don't have to do it in person. You have to do it within yourself. I forgive that person. And then I've had clients say, Eileen, it sounds like you're telling me to give him a gift and he hurt me. And I said, no. I'm telling you to give yourself a gift. The freedom of forgiveness. Because the person who hurt you, A, may care less that you were hurt or may not even realize he hurt you. So if you hold on to unforgiveness to punish the other person, you may have heard this phrase, it's like drinking poison, hoping the other person will die. So if any of you has forgiveness issues, I hope you will stand under these falls a long time and let it wash away. And this might help. As I was preparing for today, I ran into a study of people who were dying. And here's the quote from the book. As the dying become starkly aware of numbered days, in other words, they know they have 2 weeks to live, old hurts, grudges, resentments simply fade into their background. Relevance is increasingly unimportant. I thought that was interesting. So why wait? Do it now. Cleanse yourself under the falls of forgiveness, and you will experience the freedom. So, anybody with questions about forgiveness? I mean, depending on the situation, it can take time and be a process.
It's not necessarily something for the other person. It's something for yourself.
Exactly, Lynn. Lynn said it isn't necessarily for the other, it's for you. It's primarily for you. Once in a while, the other likes it or wants it too.
Could benefit from it.
Yes, thank you. Yes, could benefit, but a lot of times they're indifferent. And you don't want to wait for that moment where they say, please forgive me, I'm sorry I hurt you. That may never come. But you can take care of yourself by doing the internal work of letting go of the grudges. Is that clear?
Hi,
Oh, Patty, hi.
Eileen, this is Patty. Hi. I had
Hi.
to join a little late, but I'm enjoying the talk, and I have a question regarding forgiveness.
Okay.
And so I heard you say that it is a process, it'll take time, but are there steps to forgiveness?
Wow. So this is Patty wondering if there are steps to forgiveness. There are, Patty, there are 12 steps, but I cannot share them on the road to renewal. But maybe I should do a talk on it. Let me try to summarize, Patty. You can begin the process by letting go, the willingness to let go. If there's more work to do, it's often about expressing feelings that you didn't express. Oh, that hurt me so much and I never expressed it. So Patty, I'm sorry I can't answer your question. It's a good one, but forgiveness is a process. It takes time, but the beginning of it is you're willing to let go. So I hope that helps a little bit, Patty. And shall I book it in September?
It does. I would love to hear the talk, and I will look forward to it. But thank you for giving me that answer. I appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you for asking. I'm glad you're aboard today. Anyone else? Anything? It's hard for me to say, I can't give you those 12 steps, but we got to stay on the road, right? Because we've got to get to our destination. Okay, ready? We're ready to get back in the car? Okay, so now we're going to stop at the reflecting pool. Now, this is a longer stop, and this is where you, if you want to stay renewed, will need to do some work here at the pool, the reflecting pool. And I'll get to that in a minute. But to sustain your renewal, it's really important to have a loving relationship with yourself. Well, that doesn't just happen automatically. Nathaniel Brandon, whose books on self-esteem I inhaled when I was creating my workshop on learning to love yourself. Yeah, he's great, Nathaniel Brandon. He says, the first relationship we must consummate is with ourselves. Only then are we ready for others. Now, to me, in a nutshell, that could explain why there are so many divorces. Because many people, including me, got married before I knew who I was. Bev is shaking her head. She agrees. Okay, so we have got, how do we get to know ourselves? We can't love what we don't know. So it's crucial to go within to figure out, and this is where the self-awareness handout comes in. Go within to find out, what do I want? What do I need? What do I value? What do I think? What do I feel? Now, you can't love what you don't know. And guess what? A lot of people never make the trip within. And I was one of them. I never went in until I began to wake up at over 30. Now, I want to list, so if you don't go in, you're an outer directed person, always looking without. Now, the ideal is to be inner directed, but still scan the environment so you know what's going on. But there are three, in my opinion, main reasons why people stay away from going within. The first one pertains to me. These are the insecure people like me who are scanning the environment for approval. Do they like me? Do they think I'm okay? The need for approval because they aren't approving of themselves. So when we make this journey there to develop a loving relationship with ourselves, it eases a lot of struggles in life. But the second reason people don't go within is they're scanning the environment because they're afraid. These are the people that grew up with a fearful household, a negative household, an abusive household. So they don't go within because they have to see where the next danger is coming from. So the third category of those who do not go within is perhaps someone who received a parental message. I'll give you an example of that. I had a client, I'll call her Barb. She was growing up in a poor household with lots of kids. And one day, I think she was 5 or 6, she said to her mother, I wish I could take piano lessons. And the mother exploded. How dare you think of piano lessons when I can hardly put food on the table? Do you see what happened? Barb never went back in there because she got punished for saying I. So the good news about this is it's never too late to go within and discover your true self and begin to love it. Now, I want to tell you about my mother, who was a very outer directed person because my dad was difficult. He was angry. He was an alcoholic. So she was scanning that he never hit her, thank God, but he berated her. So she was always scanning. Oh my God, the dinner has to be at 5. Oh, I wonder if Ed wants coffee. So I called her Wanda Worrier because all she did was worry. It was so hard to connect with her because she was full of worry, do you see? And then my dad died. He dropped dead at 68. And after that, when my mother wasn't scanning the environment, she changed. She became her true self by looking within to figure out who is Mary. So I love telling that story because it tells you if you haven't done this yet, it's never too late to discover your true self that you were born with. See, I believe we're all born intrinsically good in the image of our Creator. So there's good in there, but we got to go in. We got to go in and take time. And that's why I want you to use the self-awareness handout as a guide, as a roadmap to going within, to figuring out who you are and who you want to be. Because when you go in, you won't like everything you see about yourself. I mean, we're imperfect. We all make mistakes. But again, the good news is, and I'll use myself as an example, when I went in, I saw my shyness was terrible. I hated being shy. But once I looked within, I thought, well, I can change. I don't have to be shy. We aren't cast in stone. A lot of times people think, oh, they won't even say it to me. That's just the way I am, Eileen. That's not real. That's not true. You can become what you want to be. And that's a powerful aspect of our lives that we, in my opinion, were born with what I call divine DNA. Our parent is a creator, whatever word you want to use, God. We have godly attributes in us, potential. As Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you know who she is? She studied the dying, but I love this quote. She said, within each of us is a potential for goodness beyond our imagining. So a question that I would encourage you to ask yourself when you're looking within, we can, even if you do this, it always helps to keep doing it, to check in with yourself, to find out more about you. And if you're changing, if there's anything you want to change. So when you go within, I want to share with you that there are 7 powers that you are born with, potential. You have to plug them in. Like I asked you to plug in your imagination. So I want to tell you what the 7 powers are. They're power tools. And like any power tool, it could be used to create or destroy. So the choice is ours. And we got to stay awake and aware about these things. So the powers, and this is a talk I want to do more fully, are 7 inner powers and how to plug them in. But for now, I'll give you a little preview. The 7 powers, thoughts. I've said it earlier, your thoughts are a powerhouse, and they're the only thing in your life that you can totally control. The only thing. Think of it. Well, we could control our words, but sometimes they just, right, blurt out. We can't always control our behavior. The only thing we can control, and it's hard. It's hard, but you can do it. How do you do it? Be aware. Uh-oh, that thought is self-sabotaging. Evict it. Shift the focus to gratitude or to call a friend. You have the power to choose. Shift the focus. That's the second power I'm going to mention, the power of choice. We create our lives by a series of conscious choices, or we don't create them. We just let them happen without choosing. Now, this is pretty abstract. Does anybody need clarification or have a question about this part? Remember, these are your powers within. You're born with them. They're innate, they're unearned, and it's up to you if you will plug in their potential or just let them wither away. So a third power are your feelings, because feelings are a way of knowing. So anger, sadness, fear, joy. Know what you're feeling, express it.
Say it's a way of knowing.
A way of knowing. So for example, yes. Yes, Lynn asked about it. How are they a way of knowing? Well, Lynn, I will use your mother example because if your mother is verbally abusing you and you have anger, guess what? That's good. That anger is saying something's wrong here. I'm not being treated well. So your feelings are designed to help you. People find them, nuisances, they don't want to deal, but every feeling has a message about you, from you. So honor them. Now, fear is a separate category because so many people are afraid of what isn't real. And so you have to figure out, is what I'm afraid of really a danger to me? Or is it about my insecurity? And do I have to just let it go? So, okay, where was I? Thoughts, choice, emotions, imagination. We're using it today, right? Einstein, of all people, said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Isn't it amazing that he said that? Einstein? So use that imagination for the good. I've had so many.
He's a genius.
Yes, he was. Yes, Lynn said he was a genius. Yes, he was.
He knew a lot.
Right. Patty, I see you. You look pretty. She can't hear me. I guess she's not answering. Okay. Okay, where was I? On the powers. Did you hear me, Patty? Okay. Is
I
she
did. Thank you.
what? Okay, well, I have to let go.
I heard you.
Oh,
I heard
okay,
you.
good. She
Thank
heard
you.
me. Okay, so where was I? The powers. Thoughts, feelings, choice, imagination, intuition, like your inner voice of wisdom that we call intuition. If you hear that intuition, if it's trying to get you to do something healthy, it's your inner voice. If it's trying to pull you down, it's not real intuition.
Can you call that our inner self?
I call it the inner voice
Inner voice.
because it isn't your whole self, Lynn.
Mhm.
Lynn asked me if we could call that the inner self. I would call it the inner voice. And in fact, I will share something that happened to me before I really started. It got me on the path of growth. And I would call it my inner voice. So here's what happened. I'm living on St. Croix in a beautiful place. And if you looked at my life, you would think, she's all together. Isn't she lucky? But guess what? I wasn't happy. So I took the kids to school and I walk on the beach. I can still see myself. I can still see my navy blue bathing suit. I'm walking on the beach and I hear a voice say, Eileen, you're a mother, a daughter, a wife, but who are you? That shocked me because I wasn't into anything like that, I didn't like it. So I ignored it. So the very next day, same thing. I take the kids to school. I go to my beach walk. I heard the same message. And who are you? And twice it got my attention. I reflected and I thought, I don't have a self. I'm just living through my roles, right? Mother, wife. But who's Eileen if she doesn't have the roles? So that got me on the journey of growing. So listen to your intuition. It has your wisdom in it. One therapist named Virginia Satir used to say, we were born with a wisdom box in us. And so the voice of that wisdom box is your intuition. Okay. Now, how many is that? How many do I have?
5.
Okay. Willpower. That's a power, but guess what? If you don't use it, it's like any muscle. And that happened to me during COVID. I just coasted, I ate, and I read, and I gained 10 pounds. So I didn't use my willpower. So let's remember, if you have a goal, a challenging goal, get that willpower going. Okay. And the 7th power is, many consider it the highest, and it's creativity. Because the creator, it's
Creativity.
creativity. So whatever, tell me some forms of your creativity. Everybody has something. I remember Brett's form. You play piano? Organ. Yes, Brent plays the organ. Anybody else want to say what their creativity is?
Writing.
Writing. Patty writes. Thank you, Patty. Mimi? Oh, Mimi's, I can't hear her. But I can tell you, Mimi is a great cook. So there's the cooking. There's when you decorate a room, photography. It doesn't have to be Picasso-like. When I worked in a prison, the women had lost everything. And you should see how many of them were making Afghans because it made them feel calm. It made them feel in charge of a project. So whatever your current situation is in terms of inner peace or struggle or wanting to renew, practicing creativity can help you with that, to stay on the road to renewal. So let me look to see if there's more I want to say about this before. It is 3:30 already.
No, don't look.
Well, it closes at 4, so we can stay a few minutes extra. I didn't realize the library closed at 4 till last time.
It's a week.
Friday? Okay, so let me say this. Okay. So at the reflecting pool, remember, we're still on the road trip. This is our destination now. So some of us will get in the van and we'll go home. But others may want to stay at the reflecting pool because they have more work to do to develop a loving, what we're after here is, I want you to learn to love yourself. And love is not a feeling. Sometimes is, and it's a great feeling, but it's not the essence. Love is the willingness to set aside your preoccupations, extend yourself to nurture growth. Your growth in this case. And then when we love ourselves like that, we have more love to give. So my hope for all of you is that you will, if you aren't doing it yet, give yourself the time and attention to develop love for you. You're worth it. You're valuable. You're a child of God. You're born intrinsically valuable. You know, Pope Francis, whom everybody likes, whether they're Catholic or not, he's a good guy. He says there's a divine spark in every one of us. Think of that. It never goes out. It might go low if you have it covered over with anxiety, fear, negative self-talk, but it never goes out. So if you want to spend more time at the reflecting pool, clearing away what's covering your divine spark so that it can burst into flame. Here's what I suggest. Some of us have to leave now. But if you want to stay at the reflecting pool, you could take Uber home. What do you think? Use your imagination, okay? Rhonda like that. Okay, so I'm ready to wind down, but I want to know questions, comments before I give a closing spiel. Rhonda?
Out of the 7, I must have missed one. I have thoughts, choice, feelings, imagination, intuition, and creativity. That's only 6.
Willpower is number 6. Yeah.
Willpower. I'm glad you asked, Rhonda. Yes. Anyone else before I close our time together?
I
Rhonda?
have one more thing.
Yes.
Joyce Myers had a program. It's called Don't Confuse Your Who with Your Do. Who you are and what you do should be
That's right.
separated.
Yeah, that there's truth in that, but it's also, I think, important that who you are matches somewhat what you do. In other words, are you walking the talk that you believe? But on the other hand, it doesn't define you. What you do doesn't define you. Yeah. Joyce Myers has a lot of wisdom. I do. Yes.
Well, my husband would would switch those two. If you don't feel like doing something good, but do it anyway,
Uh-huh,
that the who of you is not wanting to do it,
uh-huh.
but the do of you is doing it.
Well, it's the who of you that's pushing you to do it, though.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, the power center is you and your choices.
But
Yeah,
if it's your example where you were saying you're walking on the beach, and I'm
Yeah.
doing some active, but who am I?
right,
You know,
right.
these are all the things I do. These are all the
Right, there,
goals.
yeah, excellent to connect that. Yeah, that's right. So anyone else? Bev?
Well, I was just going to say, something you said was one thing. Made me think, I remember when I was younger, and I used to think, I would think of myself in a good manner. And then I would allow what others said, or what you were saying, don't let others
Impact.
impact you,
Yes.
And I used to do that. I was a very shy child.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, I didn't think about it at the time, but when you're talking about it, it was like, children must be seen and not.
Oh,
heard kind of
right,
thing,
right.
And that
Oh,
wasn't,
yes, I got that too.
that was
Yeah.
the message that I remember getting, and, not always,
but-
but enough that it impacted me. And so then when I thought certain things were okay about me, I shoved them down.
Oh,
I
it,
made them
wow.
go- I tried to make them go away. I wanted to find my way. Like, I was one of four, and not that my siblings, I can't look at one of them, but there were certain things that they had that I thought I should have too, and I didn't have.
Mhm.
It wasn't my way. And so even if my parents didn't say, oh, well, blah, 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 don't be like this, be like that, like your brother, or like your sister, whatever.
Uh-huh.
They might not have said those words, but, and maybe they never said it all, but I put it.
You
on
got the
myself.
message. Yeah.
I got it myself before I
Yes.
made it up,
Well, you're-
I wasn't kind to myself.
I hear that. So Bev is saying a lot that I can't really repeat, but I hope to get the essence of it. She wanted to think good things about herself, but she wasn't kind enough to herself because she still allowed other people's responses to damage your self-image. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. You know what, Bev, you're hitting on something very deep and important. And I've just made a decision. Instead of ending the way I was going to end, I'm going to read 10 life truths to take on the road. And I developed this for the prisoners, but it applies to anyone's journey, and especially the second one. Okay, the first, you can take this. Number one, I was born lovable and valuable. We've established that. Now here's the hard one. If I don't believe that, it's because I was told a lie or lies about myself, either directly by a person, usually a parent, or indirectly through household experiences like abuse, abandonment, arguments, addiction. A child that grows up in that atmosphere doesn't get enough loving attention and doesn't grow straightforwardly her true self. So for all of us, that when I say I was told a lie, a lot of times the lie is unconscious. They will say like, children should be seen and not heard. That's done a lot of damage. Here, let me do that. You can't do anything right. So these mantras from childhood are lies. The person doesn't know they're lies, but the kid takes it in as gospel. And a lot of times in growing, we mustn't look back at the 4 A's, I call it, to see if we're still carrying the pain of the past. Okay, there's another talk. Okay, but let me go through these. Number 3, it is never too late to uproot, I said the lie, or what you learned about you that wasn't real. And learn to give yourself enough loving attention for healing and growing. 4, I'm capable of change If I want to, and then I choose to, using the power of choice. 5, to encourage change, I must identify and stop self-sabotaging behaviors like thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. We have to identify what we're doing to pull ourselves down. This is self-sabotage, the negative self-talk, right? Number 5, in their place, I must substitute thoughts, attitudes, behaviors that are self-affirming. We have to learn to be kind and good to ourselves and forgive ourselves, because no one is perfect and we all make mistakes. 7, if I commit to the above path, I will eventually create a loving relationship with myself. And that's what I want for all of you, a loving relationship with yourself. Hey, it's even a commandment, love your neighbor as yourself, not instead of. But to my mind, this isn't emphasized enough in churches, to remind the people, you're intrinsically good. Love yourself. You'll have more to give and more to share. Number 8, I will begin to know, if you do these things, you will begin to notice that you're growing more secure. It's a great feeling when you've been insecure to finally realize, hey, I'm getting calmer and more peaceful. Practicing habits like self-awareness, the reflecting pool, self-expression, self-responsibility, kindness, forgiveness, gratitude, the oasis. I didn't have friendship here. I have to add that. Will keep me grounded on the path towards valuing myself. We have to stay grounded. We don't want to go back and forth. Number 10, as I grow, I will identify my unique gifts, develop my life purpose as I decide how to share them with others. So that is my hope for you. I'm so glad you joined the road trip. I hope I will see you again in September. Does anybody have any questions or comments as we say goodbye?
Eileen, yes, it's Mike.
Yes?
Hi, Eileen. Yeah, thanks again for all this. This is great. I was just wondering, will you know about the forgiveness possibility in September, the talk?
Well, Mark and I we can book that soon, Mike, I think. Mark,
Okay.
can we book it? It'll be sometime in September. Mark is going away and I need him around because he's my big support system. So Mike, I will say it might be mid-September.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very
So
much
watch
again. For all
out
this.
September
for it.
16th or 23rd.
Okay,
He even has 2 Fridays ready,
Yeah.
right, Mark?
Yeah, that's what I see on my calendar. 16th or 23rd.
Okay, can we choose the 16th, Mark? Will you
Okay,
be back?
okay. Let's do
Will you
that.
be back? He's going to London. Okay, we're booking it. Friday the 16th. Oh,
I think I'm out of town.
oh dear, I'm
What's the
sorry.
second Friday?
The 23rd.
How about that one? Yeah.
Okay, how can I refuse? Okay, I have 2 people lobbying for the 23rd, so we'll go for the 23rd, okay?
Okay,
Is that every, Nancy? September, yes. Remember that song, I'll see you in September? Any of you remember that? So,
Remember September? Fantastic.
yeah. Okay, well, Patty, does anybody at home have any?
I just
Questions?
wanted to remind people that this is being taped too. So if somebody has to miss one, we can always listen to it on tape, which is a great thing.
Oh, thank you, Patty. Patty's reminding us, did you hear that? That this will be on tape. Mark always puts it on YouTube so
Record.
that you can view it again. And you could view this again if you want to be reminded of our road trip to Renewal.
Somehow, where did I get the key to that? I think he may have put that in an email because he gave us the link to.
Oh, yeah, he gives the link, right. Okay, are we ready to say goodbye, everybody? Okay.
This was
Good to
great,
be with
Eileen.
you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.